You wipe the counter, you spray the line marching across your kitchen tile. 20 minutes later, they're back, same crack in the baseboard, same trail, like nothing happened. Here's why. Every time you spray or wipe the ants you can see, you're dealing with maybe a few dozen ants out of a colony that can number in the thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands. Sitting behind your wall completely untouched. You've been fighting the wrong battle the entire time. Tonight I'm going to show you the one spoon trick that doesn't just kill the ants walking across your counter, it kills the queen you'll never see and takes out the entire colony behind your walls without a single spray can, without calling your landlord, and without a smell that lingers for days. I'm also going to show you the one mistake that makes this trick fail almost every time it's tried, why more ants showing up after you set this out is actually the sign it's working, and something most people never think to ask, why the ants showed up in the first place. Let's get into it. If you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where the ants are getting into your place, kitchen, bathroom, somewhere weirder. Let's go. Here's the thing about ants that changes everything once you actually understand it. The ants walking across your counter aren't the problem. They're scouts. Worker ants that leave the nest find food and lay down a pheromone trail so the rest of the colony can follow it back to the source. Kill the ones you see and you've killed scouts. The colony sends more. The queen, the only ant actually capable of laying eggs and keeping the whole population going, never leaves the nest at all. She sits deep inside, completely protected, while thousands of workers do everything for her, including feeding her. And that feeding process is exactly what we're about to weaponize. Ants feed each other mouth to mouth, a process called trophallaxis. A worker ant finds food, eats some of it, and carries the rest back in what's basically a second stomach just for sharing, then regurgitates it to feed the queen, the larvae, and other workers in the nest. It's how an entire colony survives off whatever a handful of scouts manage to find, and it's the exact mechanism that lets one spoon of the right bait take down the whole thing. Here's the trick. Borax. The same white powder sitting in your laundry aisle right now for years without you ever thinking about it as anything other than a stain booster. Mixed the right way with sugar, it becomes a bait that worker ants can't resist, carry straight back to the nest, and share with everyone inside, including the queen, before it ever kills them. Here's exactly how to make it. In a small bowl, mix 1 cup of warm water with 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 teaspoon of borax. Stir until everything's fully dissolved. You shouldn't see any grit left at the bottom. Soak a few cotton balls in the mixture, or just dip a spoon in and leave a small pool of it directly on a piece of cardboard or a bottle cap. Place it directly along the ant trail you've been seeing, right in their path, not hidden away somewhere they'd never walk. Leave it completely alone and let them do the rest. Now here's the part that trips up almost everyone who tries this and gives up too early. If you make the mixture too strong, more borax, less sugar, you've built a fast poison instead of a slow one. A strong mix kills a worker ant within an hour, sometimes on the spot before it ever makes it back to the nest. That feels satisfying because you see dead ants right away, but the queen and the rest of the colony never got a single drop. You've killed a scout and changed nothing. The recipe above is deliberately weak, roughly a 1 to 1.5% borax solution, because that weakness is what lets a worker survive the walk home and share the bait before it dies. This is the single biggest reason people say borax doesn't work. They made it too strong and won. Here's something that scares people the first day and shouldn't. You'll likely see more ants at the bait the day after you set it out, not fewer. That's not the trick failing. That's scouts finding a strong food source and recruiting more workers to help carry it back, which means more ants are about to walk poisoned bait straight into the nest. Expect visible activity to actually climb for a few days before it collapses. Full colony elimination typically takes 1 to 3 weeks depending on the size of the colony, sometimes longer for a large or established one, but you'll usually notice trail activity thinning out within 3 to 5 days if the bait's working the way it should. Now, a detail that matters a lot depending on what kind of ants you've actually got. Sugar ants, the small ones most people deal with indoors, go straight for this sweet bait. But some ant species, especially at certain times of year, shift into what's called a protein cycle, where the colony needs fat and protein to raise larvae instead of sugar. And they'll walk right past a sugar bait without touching it. If you've set this out and you're getting zero interest after a couple of days, that's your sign. Swap the recipe, mix a half teaspoon of borax into 2 tablespoons of peanut butter instead, and set that out the same way. Matching the bait to what the colony actually wants at that moment is half of what makes this work. Here's something worth knowing that most videos skip entirely: why ants show up inside in the first place. Ants aren't randomly wandering into your kitchen. Colonies send scouts out constantly searching for water and food, and they come inside specifically when conditions outside push them to: heavy rain, flooding an outdoor nest, a dry spell that's dried up their usual water source, or simply a crumb trail near a door or window that a scout stumbled across once and reported back on. That's why ant problems often spike right after a rainstorm or during a heat wave. It's not bad luck, it's the colony reacting to conditions outside your walls that you'll never see. Wiping up crumbs and sealing obvious cracks around windows and doors won't eliminate an established colony. But it does remove the reason new scouts keep finding a reason to come back once this bait clears the current one out. Here's why this whole approach matters more if you're renting. Spray pesticides leave a chemical residue and a smell that can sit in carpet and grout for days, which isn't something you necessarily want lingering in a space you don't fully control. Especially with pets or kids around, a borax bait sits quietly in a bottle cap or on a small piece of cardboard, no spray, no smell, no chemical cloud settling over your counters. And because it's working on the colony itself rather than just the ants you can see, you're not stuck respraying the same spot every few days for weeks. Which is exactly the kind of repeated pest problem that gets flagged during a lease inspection if it never actually clears up. One thing worth understanding if you've tried vinegar or dish soap sprays before and wondered why they only worked for a day: vinegar's smell disrupts the pheromone trail ants are following, so the visible line temporarily scatters. Soap sprayed directly on an ant breaks its surface tension and can kill it on contact. Neither one does anything to the colony itself. It's the equivalent of erasing a road sign. The ants haven't disappeared. New scouts lay down a fresh trail within a day or two. If you want an immediate temporary fix while your bait works in the background, a vinegar spray on the visible trail is fine to use alongside it. Just understand it's buying you time, not solving the problem. Here's the complete system, start to finish. Mix 1 cup warm water, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1 teaspoon borax for sugar-loving ants, or swap to a half teaspoon borax and 2 tablespoons peanut butter if you're seeing zero interest and suspect a protein cycle. Place it directly along the trail, not hidden. Leave it completely undisturbed. Resist the urge to wipe up ants gathering around it, since that's the bait working, not failing. Expect a spike in visible activity for a few days before it thins out, and give it 1 to 3 weeks for a full colony collapse. Wipe crumbs and seal obvious gaps around doors and windows in the meantime to stop new scouts from restarting the whole cycle later. 2 honest notes before you go. First, keep this away from pets and small children. Borax mixed at this concentration isn't something you want a curious dog or toddler getting into, so place it somewhere they genuinely can't reach. Second, if you've got multiple ant trails coming from clearly different directions, you're likely dealing with more than one colony or entry point. And one bait station probably won't cover all of it. Set up a small station near each separate trail rather than assuming one spoon somewhere in the kitchen handles the whole apartment. Hit like if this finally explains why spraying never worked for you. Drop a comment telling me if your ants went for the sugar version or ignored it completely. I want to know how many of you are dealing with a protein cycle. Share this with anyone who's been fighting the same ant trail for weeks. Click the next video for more. Subscribe if you haven't. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.